Hey everybody, welcome to today's DJI Enterprise Talk. Grant Hostka here with you. We're going a little longer form today as we dive into the real world realities of deploying the DJI Dock in the field. Excited to be joined by a couple experts in the space, hear their insights and firsthand experience. Got Antoine Tissier with Clayco. On his end, he is the drone operations manager there, has trained over 100 pilots. Very impressive in itself, building out those operations on site, pulling the drone out of the trailer, out of the back of the car and deploying it, and has since continued to grow the program with the drone in the box remote operations. Then we got Rhys Andersen here, CEO and founder of Ovrwatch. May it look familiar from our case study with the city of Asheville, really a pioneer there with the private-public partnership for the city, deploying docks across the area, really helping things getting up there and rolling and applying the dock across a variety of use cases. So excited to be joined by them both today. So we'll start off here. I'm just curious a bit, where you got your start on the drone side. It's very interesting for you both, as well as what kind of started the drone on the dock operations for you.
Yeah, thank you, Grant. So it's maybe a weird story, but I was in France, you can hear with my small accent maybe. I was in a drone department, volunteering for a drone fire department, and I started the drone program for them. So we were using drones not as first responder, more like marketing first, and then it grew into drone to support the fire operation. And I also, in the same time, was doing engineering school, so that's where I graduated and finally decided to keep working on the construction field, still using drone, and that's where it brings me nowadays.
Very nice. And I guess some similar life experience there on the construction side of the house, maybe a little bit of connection there, Rhys, for your start.
Yeah, we've been on the commercial insurance claims and losses side of things. With that, there's a need to document and keep track of assets and stuff. So it's for us, it was a big deal to be able to get drones involved and not have to always get up on a roof if you don't have to. And we started to realize technology could take some of the burden off, risk off, and all of that. So once we started doing all of that, it kind of just rolled downhill from there. So.
Yeah, interesting to see all the different pathways folks take to using drones, whether it's kind of from the work side or kind of focused on the drones and then applying it to an industry at the same time there. So, you've seen the DJI marketing visual with the DJI Dock. They're great. They get you real excited. But when was the moment on your end when you kind of thought hey, this is a reality. This is something we gotta make happen?
It took quite some time. We are not first buyer, we were not buying it the first day. We had to think about it, really look at the return on investment, safety, all of that. But it's really exciting for a construction company, especially for us, in the commercial industrial market. Work is going really quick. We have a lot of clients. We have to move quickly. The construction side is changing every day. So having a drone in the box, we can document progress almost every day, even multiple times a day. So it gives us a big view of what's going on, even without having to, like you said, send someone out of the vehicle, out of the construction trailer to fly the drone. So we can do that remotely from the office. They can do remotely from their laptop sometime. So it gives us flexibility and more view of the project.
Yeah, makes sense there. And what about on your side, Rhys? I know there's been a variety of deployments your team has helped with, but what was kind of the light bulb moment for you all?
Yeah, I mean, Dock 1, once that came out, I even with drones, I kind of was like, man, I wish we could just do this, wish we could do that. And of course, once they came out with that, it was pretty cool. And I was, looking for a way to be able to deploy that, in a larger scale and stuff. So as soon as the Dock 2 came out, I was like, all right, this is it. It's time to move and make some actions on this. So from there, it's we can do this, we can deploy it here, we can accomplish that. I don't have to rely on pilots. It just turns into this thing where your mind kind of goes and wanders a little bit, just because you realize times are changing. It's some cool technology that's coming out. So how do I get in and involve myself and my company? So it was pretty cool.
it's fun to kind of nerd out with you guys. I think we always get real excited about the concept of the drone in the box and then applying it there. But you're just talking about starting to deploy those drone docks in the world. For those maybe considering it, what are some of the kind of hurdles that you maybe were overcoming initially, or challenges that maybe people don't think about initially?
If you're flying drones and there's things that are kind of unexpected and stuff, so it is when we get started on it, it's not as simple as just, hey, you have a drone, it's going to get charged and it goes wherever you want it to go. But I think that you got to consider, how you deploy the docks and how many are you putting out there, and how do your coverage areas and your waivers and regulations and stuff you have to think about. There's as far as like IT stuff that you just, there's things like that sometimes pop up. They really didn't have much to do with the dock itself, but just situational things. And I think depending on why you're deploying or who you're deploying for, you're always going to run into some new things that you're like, well, we've never experienced that. That's awesome. Let's take it and learn from it, and we grow. So that part's been pretty cool to be able to just kind of use all of those experiences to help us get better.
Yeah, and I guess with anything in life, as you deploy more and more docks, you start to kind of build the expertise and some lessons learned on that side of the house. So yeah, it is a little bit different where you do need that constant power. You need Ethernet on site for the operations, and then you're trying to deploy it obviously in a good location as well. So makes sense there on that side. And you had mentioned one thing I think we hear from a lot of end users on the regulatory side of the house, and obviously a little more US specific here, but I think something that's the team's kind of been able to grow on your side, Antoine, from a site out to a wider area.
Yeah, so that's interesting to mention. Like, we didn't start with drone in a box. Like, we already had a drone program. Like you said, a lot of pilots, we had a lot of drones. So we didn't create something new, like a new workflow for the drone dock. We mostly used and applied the drone workflow we have, all our drone safety training, and we just incorporated the drone in a box inside. So that made everything way smoother for us. And then, like you said, I had to go through all the FAA waiver requirements without going into all the details. It's interesting that we have in our situation at Clayco a construction 200 feet waiver, so we can fly 200 feet above elements, above obstacles, only over the job sites, which makes it perfect for us for mapping, photo, video flights. First, we did location-specific waiver. So every waiver was for one specific construction project. And over time, we were able to secure a nationwide uncontrolled airspace waiver. So for those not familiar, that basically means I'm now able to install a drone in the box into every construction site over the US that is not nearby one of a busy airport. So it gives us more flexibility. I don't have to apply one by one to the FAA. I can just put the drone in the box at all our locations that meets the safety criteria. So it's really interesting to see going from a one-time authorization to nationwide authorization for us, still with some safety restrictions, of course. Also, I can mention DJI was a great aid also with your resellers in the US we work with, but your legal team have some documents, supporting documents, templates. I was able to use. It made my life easier, to be honest, even if I spend a lot of time on that. Like I said, I was really familiar with all the FAA, airports, other process to fly the drones. Some companies who don't have a drone program, they can also use third party, Rhys and his team. They can do all the waiver, flying the drone for them. So they don't even have to deal with that. They can just pay a package, kind of. Clayco we did internally, but maybe Rhys can talk more about the service part later.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, we have to communicate with people all the time and talk to their higher ups and leadership and stuff, and it's something that they, there's drone program managers, and then there's people who are kind of excited about it and want to get it started, but they don't have the support that they need, and we end up working with a lot of those types of companies, and so sometimes you can choose to go completely all in as a company and do it yourself, or you can work with somebody like us. But what do you think? How did it go with your leadership? I'm kind of curious, I guess. And then aside from that, what are the things that you did to like convince them to say, hey, this is actually something that's viable. I know it sounds crazy. There's regulations, but you know, we can make it happen.
I don't want to scare people. There is a lot going on in the background, but we talk a lot about drone in a box, but it's not only the drone in a box. You have insurance, you have training pilots, like you said, IT infrastructure, you need internet, power, so you need electricians, all of those like IT security, making sure it doesn't get hacked, you have your correct network, all of those stuff. Like I said, we already had all of that, so it made everything way easier for me. Most of the discussion that went over a few months, but I'm still lucky. I have some supportive executives for all the drone and innovation inside of Clayco. Took a few months to really dig into the first safety, of course, like we say, safety first always, but also the return on investment. Like it's the main difference for us compared to traditional drone was the price. But when you look on the long term, over a few years, and with the way you can highly increase the number of flights, it makes it kind of cheap, if I can say. So we had to calculate all the numbers, taking a different scenario, risk, everything together to really show executive it was interesting and it was not that expensive over time. Because it's, like you said, compared to a Mavic Enterprise Matrix drone, it's a big investment at the beginning, but it gives you more return on investment over time. Maybe we'll talk about that later. But
no, I think it was a good point there, and some good items you mentioned. Like in one of the value points, is you kind of go through some of the challenges there, but now you have it set up. You can operate it remotely, and you've mentioned kind of being able to help save people time out on site as well to do other jobs.
It's fun. It's almost exponential. It's not exactly, but it took us months to have the first drone in a box, the first dock, and since then we were able to scale many of them way faster. Right now we have a few of them we are going to install in the next few weeks again. So we are increasing the fleet. So yeah, it's everything you learn on the first dock you're able to use for the next one. So it's a learning curve. So yeah, like you said, it's easier over time.
I think one of the things that I notice with successful programs is just that they take the time. That it's not just, hey, let's go get a dock and let's see what happens, or hey, here's one aspect that's going to work. It's you take the time to say, okay, these are the different departments, or these are different requirements, and this is how we think it's going to save money. You do some analysis, stuff like that can really show everybody in the entire company. You make the plans. I think that's what I liked about you guys. What you've done is you really built the whole program out. And said we're serious about all aspects. That just kind of protects everybody. So.
Yeah, that's great. And when you think about the operational side of the house, I think people are probably curious on how that works. And I think it's nice to learn from you as well, with different dock operations happening in different states across the U.S. for both of you. But could you take us through kind of what remote operations in your center look like when you're flying a drone remotely?
I think we use different integrations. We use different pilots, and we have our own pilots that we regularly work with. And so it's really just what type of client are we working with and what is their need. So if there's we have clients on the construction side, or clients in the near the port, and it's just some I feel like for what we do is so many variables, and so we like to just kind of figure out what each client needs, how it works with them, and how they feel like we would kind of do the same analysis that they would do at their company. And so putting all that together for them and coming up with a plan that works for them. We've got the Asheville thing that's going on, and I think that operates totally differently than some of the other clients that we have. So some of the people will fly for themselves, and they get their own waivers and everything, and then others will work with us or have us fly. So we kind of have our own team of people. We got our own guys who handle different aspects, and then we work with each one of the companies to say, here's what we could do, here's how it's going to be successful, and what's the end goal. So for me, I actually enjoy having a variety of different types of clients and different types of deployments, because it gets me into a lot of different situations where we have to figure out what we're going to do in that situation, and what kind of things do we need to add to that particular ecosystem for that client. So that's been part of the fun process for us.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think you both are doing some manual operations and automated as well. So that is one of the interesting things with the dock side of the house. You can go ahead and create those pre-planned missions to capture consistent data over time, or you can do kind of responding, on demand. So kind of those different items you were talking about. If we're doing more private security side and we're trying to respond to something, or if we're doing more on the construction side, both of you, where you have that preset plan and fly in there. So it's interesting to see kind of all the different data capture that you can do.
I just think it is interesting too that there are, even on the security side, there's differences.
Yeah, it's good to hear about all the different use cases there at the end of the day. If you were to kind of walk the audience through maybe one of those applications and kind of what you're able to do with the dock for clients or in partnership with clients, what would be maybe one you'd share?
Yes, I can talk a little bit about maybe this security side, and we might not be a traditional like security company. There's some that are definitely that, but we have a client where we work together with them and a lot of their relationships to where we have like docks that we'll put on site, and then they have their own team that handles the entire flights and operations. So they'll take the flights and operations side, and we manage and handle all of the docks and all the service and all of the maintenance, and we teach them and train them. So we're running training programs for them, and they have a bunch of guys that are all licensed, and they actually run like operations on a regular hourly level, and there's integrations they put in with their camera systems. So these guys it's pretty cool. They're excited about it, and they want to go all in on it, so they know that nobody's stealing anything off their property. They want people to know there's drones there, and they want people to know that this is what they're getting into. So that part's been really, really good, and that's like just literally multiple flights all the time, and being able to kind of monitor that and work together with them on any kind of issues. And we serve also as a backup for them for pilots, so in case that they need something, we can do it. On that note, there's other clients that are similar to that, but they aren't as all the way in, and so it's still worth it for them or useful for them, and they're maybe not as large of a site, and they'll do some flights here and there and install a couple cameras and then link those cameras and have alerts and responses to specific triggers and stuff. So it's it varies, but that's the kind of stuff we get into, and we work on the client and how we can help them to get what they need.
Yeah, and I like hearing that different logic you're thinking about, the if-then and the ability to trigger the dock from there is cool. And yeah, maybe how about a little bit more on the construction side? What's a typical maybe day of data capture look like?
I think first we have to really highlight the fact that it's not about the drone for construction people. I don't care about the drone, I care about the data, like the pictures, the videos, 360 panoramas, all the mapping, the topo, so we can do, measure cut and fill, grading, measure stockpile, all of those, like the information about the progress going on in the construction site. So it was really interesting. Like I said, we already had a drone workflow, so we were able, thanks to the DJI integration for the dock with different other third-party system, we were able to integrate the dock in our existing workflow. So that was almost easy. That was it saved a lot of steps. But yeah, it's really interesting. We went from flying the drone twice a week on every project to 3 times a week and more, like every day right now for the projects with the dock, even multiple times a day. I still need the pilots to have the Part 107, like their remote pilot certificate in the US, even if we operate from just a laptop, a computer. But after we do the training and they pass this exam, I can have people from the job site, people at the office, they can fly the dock, the drone at different times of the day. They can capture different data they need. We can even do live flights during meetings. So we can have the client also, we work with a lot of big companies, so they have office all around the US, all around the world maybe. We can have meetings with the client, even online meetings. They can be at different places in the world, and we can fly the drone and show them the project live. And maybe it sounds funny, but it's kind of powerful. You can answer the question really quick. Even internally, that's a big use for us. We could do the project without the drone. It's just when we have the drone, we can answer some of the questions faster, so it makes everybody feel better. We have you have confidence on your project when you have the data.
Yeah, that just sounds fun too. Like with the client, you're like, oh, let me launch the drone and we'll take a look. And if you try to be casual about it, maybe they're excited. I don't know. I would be. So that's
honestly one of my favorite things to do is you get them, you launch the drone. Everybody's like, oh, that's so cool. And you watch it open up, and they're like, wow. You get these. I swear, like you could have different moments where I could just predict where someone's gonna be like, oh man, that's so awesome. So, but one of them is the zoom features. As soon as you get to a zoom and you're like, yeah, this is pretty cool. It zooms, and then you zoom further, and people are like, oh, that's so cool. I had no idea. So it is cool when you show clients. It's always like a little bit of like an excitement that you get to hear, and it's fun to hear that every time.
Yeah, no, part of the fun for me working at DJI for sure, getting to work with you guys and getting to work with the tech, but no, focus kind of more on the real world applications today. But I think that's part of it, because if you can get people internally excited about it, then they're willing to go through the training, they want to adopt it and use it on their projects too. So it's definitely a plus. And I guess speaking of that, maybe the question is kind of, when to dock, when not to dock, right? Yeah. That is the question of the day here. So given your expertise there, let's hear it.
Like I said, I'm going to speak for myself. So we do industrial construction, mostly big projects, but we also have, small ones also. So first, I would check like the location. We have projects in the middle of nowhere, if I can say. We have some projects in the middle of like big cities right next to airports. So really a variety of location all over the US for Clayco. So some locations will not be a good match. Without giving too much detail, we have some projects right next to airports where I won't be able to install a drone in the box right away. I would need a lot of FAA process and approval, and maybe that would not make it worth it with the flight altitude limitation and all those stuff. Some project really small, we can have someone manually fly the drone like a traditional drone. So it's really a matter of location and size. It doesn't worth it on really small project or like small square footage. It's maybe complicated on big projects, or even if we are looking at installing maybe multiple dock on some really large projects. So there is a in-between where flying traditional drones is really time consuming. So installing the drone in the box is really powerful. I'm giving people like some time back so they can do other stuff. They have many other stuff to do on the project. So we can have someone from the office or on site at the project flying the dock and then do other stuff when the dock is charging. So yeah, would really say the location, the size of the project, those are my two key factors for the selection so far.
Yeah, makes sense. And Rhys, I'm sure you have to cut a fine line there. But what are some of the things you talk about with folks interested or excited about drone in the box, and kind of making sure that it would be the right fit versus something like a Matrice 4 or a, M400 that we got here too?
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of different ways you can look at it, but I think for Asheville, for instance, there's a lot of, and DFR just in general, that's maybe some type of client that we have, right? So for them, if they can increase their time to site by, or if they can gain on what their averages are, it's a huge deal. So it's for that's you're talking saving lives, you're talking, catching people who would have maybe potentially got away or something like that. So there's cost savings with that. They actually, and I don't know if I'm totally supposed to say this or not, but they can take a lot of the calls that come in and actually, almost figure out what's going on beforehand, so they don't have to deploy as much assets or anything like that. So there actually is some real cost savings with that. The community, obviously, that helps there too. So it's just kind of an overall bonus that helps there. Instead of just having pilots who are flying, and the response time is something you can't replicate unless you have a drone installed somewhere within the area that it's got the issue. So other clients might be something like inspections, where they can't get to certain aspects of their building or their property because it's really high up in the air, or it would cost more money to get to it. And there's certain things in types of buildings or assets where it's going to cost them a ton of money to do those types of things. And having a pilot on site, they might be on certain types of properties or areas where it's difficult to get people there all the time. So I think that kind of stuff is pretty no-brainer. And then when you can just kind of almost guarantee that at all times you have an asset that's looking out for you, for me, it's just, it's where even if you couldn't exactly fine-tune the ROI, there are a lot of situations where what you get from it is just a guarantee that you're tracking the data or the asset, and you have that evidence, you have that backup. That is a lot of times more value than any like front-end ROI. Having proof of something, beforehand, that's really what Ovrwatch is built on, is understanding how to document things in a way that you have proof for, for the future when something goes down. So I think those are some main ones when we talk to people. We're like, hey, it's not just about the immediate like initial ROI. It could be personnel, saving on personnel, or security costs for having real people on site. It could be the stuff we talk about Asheville, or just simply documenting locations and knowing that on a wide spread of properties, you're always going to have like information that you need. So.
Yeah, well said. I think you kind of summed it up there, where it's the need for repeated automated flights in an area, or that need for on-demand. And it can be sometimes a calculation of how often you need someone out, what's the challenge of getting someone out, and having that dock there ready to go, or it can be the benefits from the on-demand response. I like that example from the DFR side. I think we're certainly starting to see, it depends on the city, like you mentioned, but being able to clear some calls or help out immensely with the drone there is great to see there. So I am curious too, you had mentioned earlier about doing more flights. Is there anything you're able to see, to catch, to have that you weren't before?
Yes and no. So first, yes. Also, we are able to do more measurement, like cut and fill, measuring grading, stockpiles. I already mentioned that. We can better document every step. Like when you think about, like I said, it's going quick. When you are doing one drone flight every week, maybe you are missing some really important pictures or like videos, whatever you wanted. So when you do that multiple times a day, you are almost certain you will have pictures of everything going on. And I think something people don't talk about enough and is interesting to mention is like the value in the future. So let me explain. It's when we built the construction site, like when we build the buildings, everything, we have some warranty period after that. Also, we want to make sure we have the good quality. Everything is going as we want it. So when you have the dock, when you fly every day or even multiple times a day, you are able, in the future, you are able to go and navigate between all those pictures. If you have any question from the client, a subcontractor, anyone involved, even years in the future, you can go back to flight up to your own database. Whatever you are using for the drone picture or construction management software, you can go back in time and see all the dock picture and video, everything we captured. And maybe something we didn't see or we didn't think was important that day becomes important years later, months later. So it really gives us a big visibility. It's kind of a big superpower where we can travel we can travel space, we can travel time through all the drone data we have from the dock. So really, like I said, the consistency of having multiple flights per day, per week is really bringing a lot of value also in this way.
I think like when you on the construction side too, one of the cool things is just being able to like manage your own self, what types of flights and what types of videos and what types of photos and what angles and all of that is obviously awesome, because you can tell a pilot to go do stuff, but if you're in complete control, you're the one that manages the program, you're the one that set up the waypoint missions and all that, you're responsible for what happens or you're responsible for what doesn't happen. But that control is like, it's awesome, because then now if you go, hey, well, we're going to do an entire model or digital twin, and we do it on a regular basis, it might take more time, but it's not a dock doing it, not a pilot doing it. So now instead of a pilot having to have him out there all the time or spend the extra money to do it, you can make things like that happen and then have a complete picture instead of just photos or something, So I know you guys do a lot of that where you're doing both models and photos and videos, and I think that's like really, really important for doing what you're talking about as far as tracking data and all that,
No, great points there. So I'm curious, right? We have our drones docks out on site. Where do you see things going, for yourself from here, kind of in the future?
I would say two parts. Like for all the hardware, like everyone is asking DJI, of course, like more flight time, better camera, LiDAR, all of those better sensors, all of the hardware improvement, I'm excited to see in the future. And for the data side, like I said, we collect a lot of data. Maybe in the future, maybe we will be able to have like fully autonomous flight without even someone monitoring it, with different regulation evolution. So we are collecting a lot of data. We need to analyze and organize this data. So I think with maybe right now it's a lot manual. So maybe with AI, we will be able to improve this system to better filter, organize all the pictures, compare the different 3D models we have. All of those, really, I think it's all about the data filtering, organizing, because when you have thousands, hundreds of thousands of pictures, you need a way to find exactly what you want, like efficiently. So is it an AI search tool? Is it like different filter, picture recognition, whatever? There are many different ways to do that, but I'm kind of excited to see where it's going to go there.
Yeah. How about you, Rhys?
I'm excited. I think it's going to be awesome. I think that right now we're kind of early phase, or we're early in the game, and I think that's again, since the Dock 1 came out, I was like, all right, how do we do this? It's been something I've always been excited about. So I think as time goes forward with us, we're looking for ways to take something like Asheville and for the private-public relationship, and we say, okay, how do we take that model and continue to push it to people who maybe need help, but want to join forces or want to do it as like multiple types of entities involved or something. There's some different types of programs that can be done, and that I think really help a lot of the people who want to get into the space but either don't have money for it or don't have as much experience or whatever. So there's that, and then I think as time moves forward, I'm really looking forward to as a team that we are going to do some larger scale like operations. We'd like to focus on what can be done, for a large scale, something like Asheville, that we could say, hey, what all can be accomplished within this range of this coverage, and how do we constantly push that, create the ecosystem that exists within there, and what manages what, and what protections are in place. And I think that is where a lot of this has to go for widespread adoption. There's deconfliction. There's going to be more and more drones in the sky. So that's not a bad thing in my opinion. I think it's something that it's going to happen, and I think understanding that and being a part of it and being able to attack it and go after it is like what's really needed. So being able to show and prove that we think about it and that there are solutions, there's options, or there's different integrations that we can do to really help that, I think is like what I get excited about moving forward.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the regulations develop here over the next couple years, and then excited about automated workflows as well. I think it's something we're starting to do at DJI, where you're setting up a flight and tying in data processing, reports, measurements, and all of that. But I think there's so much more you can do with it at the end of the day, where people are just getting the data, the information they need at the end of the day, and you're hitting a start button. So it's a good thing. So I guess in closing here, anything else you guys had wanted to share to those who may be considering starting a Drone in the Box program? Maybe a good experience you've had, maybe any words of advice?
I would say, at least for construction companies, I would not start a Drone in the Box program. I would first start with a drone program, okay? Like I said, about insurance, liability, training, making people and everybody involved in the project, subcontractors, client, everybody, having them on board, having everybody getting used to the drones first, see what you can do with drones. Like, even if you fly once a month first, on small projects, you can already collect a lot of data. And once you start to see what type of data you want, because different construction company, they will need different ones, different type of subcontractors or specialized company, they will need different data. Once you figure out which data you want, you can really turn your drone program into, like you said, maybe a drone box program to have many more flights. I think that maybe is a easier and safer approach, kind of step by step, because like Rhys said, the Drone in the Box can be maybe scary at first. You have all the setup you need, like power, internet, all of those. So maybe starting with a drone, there is a lot of data you can acquire that way, and then in the future, move to a drone in a box after a few weeks, a few months, once you are familiar with the process. And that will really, feed your company with data, up-to-date data, and it's really valuable.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point. There's some good parallels there between your operations on site and the drone in the box, obviously, the mission planning, the type of data you ingest. You talked about how it was a pretty easy transition between the two, but kind of building those out and at the start is certainly a good item to think about, and then also understanding how you can transition those workflows there. And then, on your side, Rhys.
Yeah, I don't know. I think part of me is just like, don't be afraid. I should say, be afraid, call us. But it's true. It's true. You shouldn't be afraid. It's not something that's, not afraid maybe isn't the right word, but it's something where I feel like you got to get in and you got to get doing it. And so if that's what you're doing, is you're going to take the step-by-step approach, I think that's important, and it's awesome to do that, because for us and for I think anybody who wants to get a program, get the buy-in from everybody, if they're whoever they're involved with, whether it's partnerships and strategic partnerships, or it's their higher ups or their leadership. I think what you need to do is you need to figure out what you want out of it. What is going to be your, whatever you get, like, make sure that you can actually accomplish getting it first. You don't have to, if he's saying, hey, take a step-by-step approach, you can get a win first, is kind of what I'm trying to talk about. It's like, you can get the dock and do all that, but if you're just doing it to start doing operations and you think maybe it's not going to be exactly what you thought. Just, you want to know what your end goal is, and then look for the first thing you look for is like, how do I get a win on that? And then that really is going to help you kind of propel the whole program and stuff. So if you had to look forward at doing the program, what would be a win for you? And start putting that stuff down to where you can say, yeah, this would be a clutch moment where I can say to whoever else I'm involved with that, like, this is the moment when we knew it was going to work, And so I think stuff like that really has been helpful to each one of the programs. And until they see that, it's always going to be a numbers game or analysis a lot, where they look at things on a really minute level. Then there's other companies that once they pass some of those moments, it's just, no, this is like, we need this. It has to happen, So I think that would, I don't know, that's probably the main thing for me is just find your wins,
Yeah, I like that, because that's really like you said, kind of propels everything, help you get some executive buy-in there as well. So it makes a lot of sense, and it's been great to chat with both of you here, just kind of seeing some of the different flavors that exist out there as well, right? Like, I think it really depends from company to company what their bandwidth is, and what capabilities they maybe have, or where they have the time to deploy it. So seeing the in-house drone program, seeing kind of you being able to assist with that program, or being able to help take a bigger role in that. It's really great to see all of these different applications and kind of avenues growing across the drone industry, and specifically with the drone in the box. So I think with that, thank you everyone for taking some time to join and listen with us today. A big thank you to Antoine and Rhys today. It's been great to have you both on.